Hello, thank you for joining and welcome to our Smiley talk on how to train yourself to be happier. So over the next hour, I'm going to be speaking to these three wonderful guest speakers about techniques and tips we can use to help inspire our brain and shift our mindset to think more positively. We were talking about how with our physical health, we go to the gym, we train, we work out to try and improve it. So how can we do the same with our mental health and our mental well-being? Just a bit about Smiley Movement to begin with for people watching. Smiley Movement is a community interest company. We're a not-for-profit sponsored by the original Smiley brand, as you can see. And everything we do is aligned with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So this event very much fits in with the UN Goal 3, which is good health and well-being. And also, considering it was World Mental Health Day on Sunday the 10th of October, we thought it was a great opportunity to run an event on well-being and positivity and positive mental health. Just a little bit about the agenda of the next hour. So we're going to have some introductions from our speakers shortly, and then we're going to have around a 35 to 40 minute panel discussion. But if you do have any questions, just wherever you're watching the stream on Twitter, Facebook or YouTube, pop your questions there and we will try and get to them at near the end of the hour, which is great. So just to introduce myself first, I'm Amy. I'm the chief editor at Smiley Movement, but I think what is much more interesting for this chat is to introduce our speakers. So we have Josephine, Leanne and Sally. I'm going to let them all introduce themselves first. So Josephine, did you want to tell us a bit about what you do and your work?
Of course. So hello, everyone. My name is Josephine. I'm a wellness coach, a transformational healer, which means essentially I work with energy. I work with the mind, the body, the heart, your soul. And I'm also a yoga teacher. And I'm originally from Denmark, been in London for about 20 years, but still haven't lost my accent and my Danish touch. So that's really briefly about me. Over to the next two lovely people.
Leanne, did you want to go next?
Of course. Hello, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here. I am Leanne Evans and I am a life coach. I also have a corporate wellness business as well. And my journey has brought me really from having kind of a limited mindset and being very fearful, very anxious in life, to growing and kind of flourishing in inspiring people to reach their own visions in my coaching business, and also inspiring positive mental habits in the corporate world as well. So yeah, I'm so happy to be here and share hopefully some of my wisdom throughout the years with you all today.
Lovely, thank you. And Sally, our third speaker, did you want to give a brief introduction?
Yes, thank you. I'm delighted to be here. So my name's Sally May and I'm a coach. In the past year, I've been specializing in mental fitness. So hopefully I'll get a chance to talk to you a little bit about that shortly. But I suppose the reason I'm doing what I do now is because I did work in the corporate world for 20 years and I wasn't very happy for a lot of that. I wasn't really tuned into who I am and what I really want out of life. So I've absolutely loved exploring that since I left the corporate world a few years ago, and I qualified as a business and leadership coach, and I've been organizing events about circular economy and donut economics and alternative models. And basically, I think the themes that come back in all of this are sort of challenging limiting beliefs and getting out of fight, flight, freeze mode, and just being really passionate about creating a better future for individuals and for us all collectively.
Sounds very aligned with everything we're doing at Smiley Movement. So I'm very happy to have all three of you on board. So we're going to dive straight in. I was thinking how to start, and not that I wanted to start on a negative note, but I think it would be good to contextualize why we wanted to run an event on how to train yourself to be happier. And it was after I saw some research by the National Science Foundation, which said every individual will have around 50,000 thoughts a day, and on average 80% of those are negative, which when I saw that, I just thought, it just blew my mind that a lot of us are perhaps prone to having negative thoughts, but I never realized that on average 80% of what we were thinking about could potentially be negative. So it would be great to perhaps maybe dive in that to see if that's something you've experienced with your clients, partly to show people that if that is happening to them, you're not alone, but also understanding why. And then obviously we're going to go into those practical tips and techniques. But I wonder, Josephine, did you want to start by talking a bit about that negativity bias, and is it something you've experienced in your work?
Absolutely. Thank you for asking, Amy. I just want to add something to that. So I know you said we have around 50,000, apparently even up to 90,000 thoughts a day. And yes, a lot of them are negative, but not only that, a lot of them are repetitive thoughts. And I think this is a really key factor, because this means, you know, we want to change our life. We want to have a new perspective. We want to embrace something new, whether that is a new relationship or trying to visualize how could I live my life differently. And yet very often we find it hard to actually get there, to A, even think something new up, and B, actually implement some changes, some lasting changes. And I think the main reason we find that difficult is because we're having the same thoughts. So not only are those thoughts predominantly negative, but they're also the same as we had yesterday. So if you know what I mean, if we keep thinking the same thoughts day after day after day after day, how could we possibly expect to have a different result? We're not going to, right? We can all, you know, agree on that one. So that was just a little add-on. Now, with the negative bias, when I first heard of this many years ago, I felt quite happy, because I kind of felt like, oh, it's not just me who's finding this stuff hard. And so with the negative bias, what science and research have proven is that since the beginning of time, when we read in history books and when we, you know, learn and watch from different art and paintings and just, you know, folk tales that have been passed down for generations, we're talking right back to day 1, day 0 on the planet, right? Life was tough, right? You know, challenges and danger was very real. The danger that our ancestors experienced was far greater and used to happen far more frequently compared to the danger we living in the 21st century, especially here in the western part of the world, are experiencing daily. So that meant our ancestors, because they were daily experiencing these great dangers, these high risks, they started to create a thought pattern that sort of were always on the lookout for danger, because, you know, a lot of people were trying to sort of move over the mountains to see which tribe was there, or they were traveling to a new culture, and they didn't know if they would even make it in that boat, or if a new animal would have, you know, occur, or if an illness like having a, you know, like a tooth that went slightly bad, that could mean you died. You know what I mean? Things were really up in the air, and the risk factors were very real. And so we created a mindset, and this is just natural evolution. We created a mindset. We trained our brain, which is a muscle. We trained our brain to always be on the lookout for danger. And essentially, our brain does that to keep us safe. So the intention of the brain being keeping us safe is kind of nice. But in the long run, living in today's society where, yes, of course, we have dangerous things happening and there are risks, but they're not as intense as they used to be. So we are now finding ourselves living in a mindset that very often will always be on the lookout for the negative. What is the risk? Instead of going, oh, what if I fall? Instead of going, oh, but what if I fly, right? Our usual, for the average person, the first thing brain will go into when we think about something new is, what is the risk? And if we feel that the risk is just a little bit higher than the potential joy, we will be very likely to not even think the thoughts through right to the end. We will just immediately go, well, that's that then. And the reason why I'm loving the nuts, thank Leanne.
You're still nodding.
Like, yeah.
And when I heard that, I just kind of felt it might sound weird, but I personally felt a sense of ease, because I was like, oh, thank God for that. Now I get it. I'm a human being just like everyone else. I'm doing my best, you know, I've worked with my mindset for many, many years. But now that I know that this is kind of the way that everyone, on an evolutionary scale, on a scientific scale, this is the way that all of our brains more or less work. And until we really start doing those brain push-ups, which I'm sure Sally is going to tell us all about, right? Like our general go-to will normally just be that of like, ooh, but what are the risks, right? And so then we can start to relax a little bit. Okay, I'm gonna stop myself here because I could just go on forever. But I think everyone a little like, aha, okay, yeah. This is how it generally works. Now, what can I do about it? Because that's the exciting thing. We can do something.
Yeah, and I think what you just said about actually feeling a bit happy that, oh, it's not just me. Hopefully, a lot of people who listen to this will feel the same. and understand that I shouldn't get so overwhelmed with the fact that I'm thinking negatively, because in fact this is probably why, but I can hopefully try and change it, which is interesting. So Leanne, is this something you've experienced perhaps with your clients, with yourself, in your work? Big nods.
Completely. And I just think it's so good to hear that kind of story of kind of the origins, because it's so interesting to see how it manifests in day-to-day life. I was thinking of me in the corporate world and kind of the conversations you would have when you're getting your tea or getting your water, and they always were quite negative, and they always were quite always talking about, I guess, the bad side of things. And I think there is a sense of that commonality between us. We all want to connect with people, and sometimes it does tend to be the negative things that are happening that we tend to speak on, rather than kind of being like, I'm doing this or I'm doing this amazing thing. So I think sometimes our connections as humans can be quite negative, and like Josephine was saying, we get into those endless cycles. And I think that is the core thing that we have to be really aware of. It's when we're kind of on that loop, when we're having the same mindsets, which then provokes the same behavior. So we're kind of doing the same things day in and day out. And that's when we get caught up and kind of lose our ability to kind of shape things up and really get in control of this negative thought patterns. But I've experienced it myself, and I would say it is all a journey. It is bringing the awareness, and it's taking your time, becoming aware of us being humans, and just moving forward and thinking about how we all relate. But I think there is often that sense of, I guess, fear that comes up when you kind of do challenge things that you do day to day normally. So if you do have these patterns, shifting it's hard. It takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of courage, because we don't know what's on the other side. So I think there is an element of fear that can often come up that may prevent us from, I guess, pushing forward and readily to kind of move into more positive ways of doing life. But that's been my experience, and kind of my experience of clients as well.
And I guess what you said, maybe there's that process of people, first of all, that they have these sort of automatic negative thoughts and they don't have an awareness. And then maybe listening to and talk like this or reading, they get that awareness. And then maybe they get the fear when they try and change it. So it's a bit of a process moving these thought patterns. Sally, I was going to come to you next. So Sally runs a 6-week mental fitness program. And I wonder, when you see people at the beginning of this coaching program, is this negativity bias something that comes up?
Oh, most definitely, yes. Yeah, the program I run it's actually based on, I don't know if this is going to come out properly, but it's on Shirzad Shamin's work on positive intelligence. And what he's done is taken from various specialities like neuroscience and positive psychology, and just built a program that really helps take people from where they are today to developing their mental fitness so that they can respond to life's challenges with a more positive mindset. And what happens in the first couple of weeks of the course, one of your jobs is to notice your judge. And your judge was really useful when you were a child, because it was trying to help you figure out what's good and what's bad. And just sort of, put things into boxes. And then as you get older and older, your judge isn't as helpful because if you're constantly judging yourself, oh no, why did I do that? If you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning going, oh, why did I do that? That's your judge, right? And you need to be learning to just quieten that voice. And then, so what the 6-week program does, it helps you identify the judges. Everyone's got the judge. And then you have accomplice saboteurs like hypervigilant, for example. So in the example before about our ancestors, having to watch out for wild animals attacking them and things like that. Of course, they had to be pretty jumpy because the ones who weren't very jumpy didn't survive. And but now, of course, we don't have as many existential threats in our lives, but we still, some of us will have a very strong hypervigilant saboteur, and I think that's been triggered a lot over the past year and a half as well. So, but the irony is that if you don't catch it and label it, it's actually probably going to do the opposite to what it's promising you it'll do, because you'll be so exhausted having been frightened by this, frightened by that, that you won't have the resources to be able to deal with a real threat when it comes up. So the idea here is catch it, label it, and then you're going to put yourself into a more resourceful state to actually be able to deal with it. So.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've heard of labeling thoughts before, but I've never heard of the judge. And I can imagine now having any negative thoughts, I'm going to be like, there she is. There he is. There they are.
Yes.
They're all coming.
Yes,
I call mine the goblin.
The goblin, did you
Yeah,
say?
the goblin. Yeah.
I just wanted to add, I quite like thinking of it like, you know, you've got the good judge and then you've got the bad judge. You've got the one that's like my cheerleader, like, yeah, this is gonna happen. This is the best possible scenario, you know. And then there's the other one who's like, oh no, right? And the thing is, if we embrace that both exist within us, so we're not trying to totally like kill the negative, you know, the one that's always on the lookout for worst case scenario, but if we really embrace and go, no, I hear you both exist within me, but I can choose. I'm in charge. I can choose which one I choose to listen to today, right? And that doesn't mean your thoughts are going to immediately change. It also doesn't mean that you are emotionally or physically immediately going to go from like nervous wreck, you know, to like, yes, power me up, right? But with time and training, which I know we will all give lots of good tips and tools on, with time, training, and with discipline, can this behavior start to change? Because I just saw we got a nice little comment in from Ellen asking, you know, can these repetitive negative thought patterns, can they over time, can they be changed? Is this possible? Is it possible to change them? And I 100% think that with time and practice and discipline, yes, I don't think we will go to a point in our lifetime where we won't be having them, no, and where it won't be our automatic to immediately kind of listen to bad judge first or negative judge first. But I do think definitely with training, we can go, oh, but the other one exists. Even if today, the only thing all of you guys take away from today is that 2 different people exist within your mind. Even if you have that awareness, with awareness, then you start to understand, oh, there are 2 different sides of all stories. Secondly, just very briefly on that Ellen thing, I always like to just ask, because she goes, you know, something about the evidence, you know, and I always like, if you're having that negative judge who's really in charge, and just to ask that judge, what's your evidence? Is this a myth or is this a fact? Is this just me spiraling out into not craziness, but really getting super paranoid, really building myself up in paranoia and with anxiety? What's the evidence, you know? And quite often, and write it down, really write it down. This is what I'm afraid of, you know? Have I experienced this in the past? What happened? What really did happen, like factually? And if it did happen, what would you do about it now? What support can you get? And then finally, what's your best case scenario? What could happen? What's the beautiful thing that could happen? Anyway, I'm going to stop.
That's really interrogating those thoughts. And that question has touched on what I wanted to move on to next. And I think we know the answer of, like, is it possible to retrain our brains? Is it possible to train ourselves to be happier? Which I think from the answers we've had, we know it is. But what we experience in life, and I'm sure you've all had, is people say, I'm an optimist, I'm a pessimist. And so someone that says, I don't know, Leanne's nodding, perhaps you've had a client that has come and said, oh, but I definitely won't achieve X, or I'm a pessimist, so this won't happen. I'm sure those sorts of people probably just think, well, that's me. Like, this is my brain, this is how it works. I'm a pessimist, but I deal with that. How do you approach that in a way of understanding, helping them understand that they can change that? Leanne, did you want to take that one?
I think I resonate so deeply with this because it's been my own journey. I think for me, I went from having a very limited mindset and thinking, okay, I'm a shy person, I'm an anxious person, this is me, this is my box, I'm just have to stay in this for the rest of my life. And when you go on the path of self-development and growth, you realize, no, you can change things, you can challenge them. And it is developing. For me, that was part of my journey, this growth mindset where I learned about myself. I think, Josephine, you touched upon kind of having the 2 judges. I think part of that journey is really working out, what is my voice? Who am I in the situation? Because you do hear all of these different things sometimes within your head, and you need to get really certain, okay, who am I? What do I believe? What do I stand for? What is true to me? And I think once you start to establish that and grow that relationship with yourself and become more authentic, you're able to clearly see and when you are having thoughts, that is not me. That is not building me towards the vision I'm going forward to. That is not the growth that I'm trying to move into. And you can start to get more clarity on your vision, and it allows you to kind of move from a limited, fixed mindset into really, in my journey, manifesting and becoming who you want to be, kind of challenging thoughts, getting rid of these negative thoughts, affirming yourself, believing yourself, and really kind of moving into the version of you that you want to become. So that's the mindset shift I've been on. So I know it's possible. And yeah, I just encourage people to do the same. And there's so many different practical things day to day you can do to start getting in a positive routine, start to challenge some of these limiting things that kind of suppress us day to day.
And Sally, I wonder, when going back to this, the mental fitness course that you mentioned, and at the beginning of the course you said that negativity bias is definitely there. So this is 6 weeks. What is the shift like at the end of that course? Because obviously when we think of habits, I think we know, I can't remember the stat, but there's a stat about how long a habit takes to form.
30
anyway
days.
How many days?
30 days.
30 days. Okay. So from that beginning of that 6 weeks to the end of that 6 weeks, do you see that mindset shift that Leanne was just talking about, from that fixed mindset to a growth mindset?
Oh yeah, you see it quicker than that. Yeah. So
Wow.
in week 2, when the homework is to notice your judge, I've had clients say, I'm a horrible person. I went to the supermarket and I was just judging everybody. And it's really funny. So, and once you notice it, you can just start laughing at yourself and realizing how unhelpful it is to keep labeling everything as good or bad. It's not helpful. And you get yourself, so in mental fitness, what we've done is just looked at, we've simplified radically the view of the brain. So you'll have the saboteur regions of your brain and the sage regions of your brain. And if you put someone in a MRI scanner before they did this program, and then at the end of it, you would see a reduction in the areas of the brain, in the saboteur areas, lighting up, and you would see an increase in the sage areas lighting up. And that's because they've learned about how their brain works. They've done their own personal saboteur assessment to really understand which are the saboteurs that get in my way, and just starting to be able to label them, and that disempowers them. But the key to really transformational change is there's the 20% insight, but then there's the 80% practice. And what you do during the program is you have a little app, and it gives you exercises to do 3 times a day. And and the whole point is it's interrupting your normal day. So at first people will be like, well, I don't have time to do that. It's 2 minutes, 3 times a day. You have time. and what happens is it really does start to get to the stage where people will say, yeah, I mean, I do this before a meeting because I know I'm shifting into a more resourceful state before I go into a meeting. So and we often use I don't know if anyone here is a Star Wars fan, but we often use sort of Star Wars analogies. No, so it works with us.
I love good analogy. Tell us.
Okay, it works with a lot of the people who Shirzad has been working with, because he's worked with a lot of companies and sort of Silicon Valley types and things like that. So but I grew up watching Star Wars, and it's just imagine in your brain there's a Jedi warrior and there's the Darth Vader, and the Darth Vader is trying to drag you into fear-based activity, whereas the Jedi is saying, wait, I'll take that pain as an alert to do something different. I'm not going to stay in the pain and get all wound up about something, right? It's like if you put your hand on a hot stove, you wouldn't leave it on there. So why would you stay in negative emotions for a long time? So take it as a signal, take your hand off, and then say, right, what can I do about this? How can I access my resourceful brain and take some action? So That's kind of that, and that's what happens. I don't produce Jedi warriors at the end of 6 weeks, but people do see a radical difference in how they handle life's challenges, and they just approach things happier.
Can I just add one last thing? Sorry, Leanne.
No, go ahead.
Just like a little something that really shifted things for me quite, again, a very nice aha moment was when I heard about neuroplasticity. So I'm sure everyone knows here, I can see like nodding faces. Essentially, it means that back in the day, actually until pretty recently, science thought that our mindset, the structure of the mind, the structure that, the signals of what we're taking in and that information being processed was pretty much set by the time you were an adult, and that couldn't really be changed. They didn't realize that the mind literally is like a muscle, and yet we can change those pathways, those structures. So just like when you go to the gym, you can work your body, your muscles in a way that's really helpful and that supports your bones and your joints, good alignment, good posture, meaning you will therefore have a healthy body for pretty much the rest of your life because you prevent injuries because you're in good alignment, right? Same thing with our mindset. It's just that most of us have been trained in a way that isn't actually helpful, because just like Sally touched upon, we often feel that we just are our thoughts, that we are not the master or the observer of our thoughts. We feel that we're just in flow, constantly in flux, taken from one thought to another. But both Sally and Leanne have proven through their own experience and through working with their clients, and so have I, that we have got these different sides of ourselves, and that it is 100% possible to create through training, like training the brain in a good way, to create a new pathway that goes, I'm having information brought in, instead of going straight into fear mode, which would be the normal response, information comes in and I can go, ooh, let me take a moment. Let me notice what feels good about this, what feels scary, what is my evidence, what is fact, what is myth. I can take a breather, and anyway, we'll go into the tools. But just the fact that it is scientifically proven, the brain, pathways within our brain can change, which means we don't have to always go back into the normal triggers that we used to have throughout our childhood and teenage years, adulthood. So yeah.
And Leanne, you were just going to say something then.
It's just something that Sally said resonated with me, where her clients are kind of just sort of admitting kind of the thoughts they have, and just the idea of releasing shame. It's okay to have these thoughts. It's okay to have a safe space and just honestly share with someone the thoughts that are coming through, because a lot of my clients sometimes feel a bit of shame about some of the thoughts they're having, kind of when it comes to, deeper emotions like jealousy or comparisons. And I think sometimes we're scared to say it, and we just kind of get stuck in that kind of cycle. So I just just try and advise you and inspire you to find at least someone you can honestly share kind of some of the thoughts you're having, because once you kind of do that and get it out and be a bit vulnerable, there's just so much waiting on the other side in terms of what you can do and transition through.
Yeah. And I think what you and Josephine just spoke about there does lead nicely into what I'm really excited to hear about, those practical tips and techniques people can use on a day-to-day basis that is accessible to everyone to try and retrain their brain and to try and change their mindset. So we've spoken about why we have this negativity bias and the fact it is possible to shift your mindset. And we have success stories here that you can shift your mindset. But what would be great is to go into what tips and techniques you use, as specific as you like, as unique as you like. I like the Star Wars one, even though I haven't watched Star Wars. So I wonder, maybe Leanne, did you want to start talking about, and it might be things that have helped you or things that you have passed on to your clients, any practical tips that you use that help you get through, that help you have those positive thoughts?
Yeah, so for me, one thing that has really helped is just establishing routine, but not in a way that is overwhelming. So bringing awareness into your daily life, really becoming curious. I like to use the idea of like being a detective in your life and really get super curious about the thoughts you're having, kind of your habits, your behaviors, how your day-to-day life is looking like, and just start to take control of your routine. For me, it's really powerful to consider your morning and your evenings, and just introducing little tiny steps that can just bring a bit more positivity into your day before you start and before you go to bed, because this is where our mind is most at rest, and we're able to kind of influence kind of our brain state in the most impactful way. So for me personally, affirmations have been incredible. Really just empower myself through changing, I guess, the words I'm feeding my brain, really thinking about the sort of information I'm processing, and listening to positive affirmations first thing in the morning was really, really helpful on starting that journey of feeding my brain more positivity. And for me, alongside that, journaling. I think self-awareness for a lot of people, we live in a chaotic world. We have so much going on. We're so busy. It can be really, really hard to have the time and the space, like we have been saying, to kind of tune into those thoughts and really kind of think about, okay, what is resulting in the behaviors that I'm doing every day. So I think for me, that process of just slowing down, of having some room just to process and actually see how my life is being navigated, journaling was really, really helpful in that. I know not everyone is a writer or wants to do, but it's just having that space just to kind of go within yourself and really just tune into what is going on. So that was really, really supportive for me. And day to day, just cultivating more gratitude. That has been a game changer for me. Really tuning into the little things in life that you're grateful for. And that has helped to shift my mindset so much from focusing on the things I don't have, and bringing it more into the things I want and creating a vision of what I want more of. And those three things have been key in kind of propelling me forward and creating more of like a growth mindset.
And with the journaling, I wonder, because it's something I've done in the past, but and something people have said to me is just like, I don't know, what do you write? So would you have any advice to someone who they have a notepad, they've got a pen, they have some time? How do they start?
I did a really great practice. It's called Morning Pages. It's in an incredible book called The Artist's Way, which is all about tapping into your creativity and the idea that we all have an artist living inside of us. But there is a practice called free flow writing, where you literally just open up your page and you just write whatever comes to your mind. There's no judgment. Even if you're just writing like bar, black sheep over and over again, there's just no limits to what you can write. But the idea is it's free flowing, there's no judgment, and you can really start to just get whatever is in your head out of your head and really just start that process of kind of connecting your thoughts to the paper and kind of getting things out. So I would say just don't take the pressure off. There's no right or wrong way to do journalism. That sometimes we get our logic too involved. And that's a great way just to kind of, if you don't know where to start, just to kind of get things out, but also to have a bit more of a strategy behind it, or formatted way to do it is just like a gratitude process at the end of the day or the beginning of the day. 3 things that you're really grateful for. You can just start by literally writing that down in your journal, and just cultivating that gratitude. And writing things down. I feel like when we write things down, it's like more official and like more affirmed. So and it's a good to, like I said, get into that routine. So day to day, we're really harnessing our day-to-day lives.
Yeah, and I think with the gratitude thing, I remember during the pandemic, it was something a lot of people were talking about during a time that it was really tough. People were trying to search for things they're grateful for. And something I remember someone said, you can be grateful for your bed. You can be grateful for that you have food in the cupboards. And because I think a lot of people are like, well, I've just sat inside and watched TV all day. But I think, well, you can be grateful for your Netflix subscription. So sometimes it's about thinking wider, isn't it? And you're right, writing it down, seeing it on paper can make you show you you've got good things.
And like you said, well, the more you do it, you do have to start thinking outside the box. It's like, what other things are, and you kind of, that's when you start to sort of see how expansive your world actually is. And it begins that journey of, like I said, expansion and kind of moving out of that fixed, limited mindset.
Fantastic. So I'm going to move on to Sally next. We just had some great tips and techniques there. Maybe there's some that you say, but did you want to share some practical tips that you use either yourself or with your clients that have helped people shift their mindset?
Yes, well, there's several. One is to do the free online assessment, the Saboteur Assessment, and then it gives you a language to be able to to start noticing, that's my hyperachiever getting in the way, or that's my stickler, or that's my pleaser. And so you just start to accept that. I mean, the good news is everybody has saboteurs. So if you and all your colleagues do saboteur assessments and share them with each other, you can all just start to have a bit more of a laugh about it and go, oh, right, that thing that you do that always annoys me, that's just that saboteur. So what the lovely thing that happens is it makes it easier to accept yourself and to accept other people, because ultimately we're all born beautiful little babies, and then we start to adapt to the world around us, and obviously we've got some innate strengths and some there will be some things that are innate about us which will determine what our personality becomes, but a lot of the things that cause us trouble are actually our saboteurs, which are things that we can quieten down, and that's just so empowering. So doing the saboteur assessment and sharing it with the people around you, and doing that work on yourself to try and catch it, and ask other people, say, look, I'm aware I've got a really strong stickler saboteur, and actually I know that I annoy you all with it. So would you mind kindly calling me out on it? and so it actually really helps to strengthen relationships as well. So that's one thing. Another really nice short thing that we do is, can I just demonstrate it?
Yes, please.
It's 10 seconds. So just, you can do it at work. You can do it whenever you're stressed, and just notice how you're sitting, and maybe just relax a bit and just breathe. Lower your shoulders. Maybe make sure both your feet are flat on the floor. And what you can do, maybe if you're in a meeting, is take your finger and your thumb and just gently rub them against each other. And you can feel all the ridges. And you can just do that from time to time when you're, if you're getting stressed by something. So, and in positive intelligence, we call that a PQ rep. So PQ is the term for positive intelligence, like you've got IQ, EQ, PQ, and then rep. It's because it's also trying to appeal to people who might not want to do a gratitude journal and things like that. It's using a type of language that people who go to the gym a lot might want to use, because they do reps, weightlifting. So a PQ rep is one of these little 10-second things where you just tune in, and that then gets you, if you were in a scanner, maybe the sage part of your brain, the more resourceful part, would be lighting up, and it just means you're more likely to be more resourceful in the next, whatever's happening in the next few minutes. So that's a little technique that we use. And then basically there's just an operating model where it says, if you're feeling negative emotions, stop. That means you've been hijacked by one of your saboteurs. Okay, so do quick PQ reps, and then remind yourself that even when something goes wrong, there can always be a gift in it. So it doesn't mean, oh, just smile and carry on, but it's just, at some point, it's going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you say, oh no, I've missed the train, that means I'm going to miss the meeting, this is a disaster, and that's all you're thinking, you're more likely to head towards a disaster. If you think, right, this is awful, okay, now, little PQ reps, what can I do? And you may find that if you're late for that job interview and you call them, the way you responded in this last minute problem situation, actually they like the way you responded, and that ends up becoming more important than the job interview itself, because of the way you called them and what you said when you called them. There can always be a gift in something going wrong, and just being open to that and is going to help you. Is more likely to make it happen. So, and then you can generate the gift by using that. We've got sort of superpowers in the sage brain that we can use, and in the program I teach 5 different ones that you can use.
Fantastic, loads of tips there. And I feel like we all sat there quite silently thinking, Oh, actually, that's quite nice. We'll be doing the PQ rep. Amazing, thank you. And Josephine, I'm going to come to you. Are there any? There's been loads of tips there, but are there any other practical tips or techniques that you would recommend?
Yeah, so I mean, we've just heard so many wonderful ones, and I don't want to overload people, but there are so many good ones. I'm just going to add. So just touching on what Sally just said there at the end, because what we are all saying here, we're not saying we must never have a negative feeling, emotion, or thought. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is we all have the ability to take a step back, maybe do that little exercise, take a breath, take a beat, and decide what our best option is, right? So we're not just victim of our thoughts. We can take a step back, and I have a nice little thing that I do. So whenever something pops up, so I kind of think of my emotions or my thoughts like a guardian system. It's going, hey, alert, something is happening. I take a step back, and then I ask myself, what is this teaching me? Or how can I best support the journey? So what Sally was touching on, maybe there's an opportunity, maybe there's a blessing within what is happening right now, because everything can be looked at from the positive perspective or a negative perspective. I don't think there's no eternal truth that is either is positive or negative. Anything can be positive or negative, deciding on which part of the coin you're looking at. So that means when you're asking yourself, what is this teaching me? How can I best support the journey? You're opening up, you're coming into a state of opportunity and possibility instead of just closing down at number one, which was like, missed the train. So we're opening up to possibility, and that takes a lot of training, but it makes life so much more exciting, and you feel so much more empowered because you go, okay, well, what is opening up here? That something magical is about to happen. What's opening up? Maybe even someone annoyed you. Maybe that's an opportunity for you to learn to set firm boundaries. And that's actually a beautiful opportunity. If we look at it as if we are students of life, in every single scenario in your life, every single one, down to the missing the train or, getting engaged, big or small, doesn't matter. Every single opportunity, every single situation, whatever life brings you, offers something up of value to you, uniquely to you. Another one I'm going to touch upon briefly as well is Leanne. So Leanne talked very much about how having a healthy routine, a healthy structure, especially a good morning routine, is super important. I'm totally with you. I wrote a book called The Morning Miracle. It's available online on Amazon. And it's actually a 30-day journey where you have a prompt for the day, like a little theme, something to get your mind into a good space. It's a really nice book if you're just kind of opening up to this kind of work and you're going, I'd quite like to have someone by my hand, but I'm not fully willing to like full on course or whatever, just easy little one. If you don't want to do that, don't have to do that. Maybe start having a meditation practice in the morning. There's so many amazing apps out there. I also created a course. Sorry, I don't want to sound all salesy, but I did. 30-day, it's called the Morning Miracle Club. You can do it on, it's online when you check it out. Whether you do mine or someone else's, having even just 5 minutes of a guided meditation every single morning, first thing when you wake up. So this is really important. Again, science has proven that the first 17 seconds of being awake sets the tone for your entire day. Because remember, Leanne, again, in the beginning of our session today, said the evening and the morning times are spaces where we are the most receptive within our mind, right? It's that time just before we fall asleep or just before we are fully awake. We kind of got a clean slate before those 50 to 90,000 thoughts all pop in and they're the same as yesterday. So in that space in between, if we place something really positive, really empowering within the first 17 seconds of being awake, or within the last 5 minutes before we go to sleep, whatever you place in those two spaces will greatly impact how you feel the following day. So whether that's your gratitude practice at night or a meditation in the morning, super empowering. Last thing, and this is slightly different, write about amazing memories. Find three things that emotionally make you feel amazing. 3 memories, write about them in great detail, and have them there available whenever something doesn't feel good. So you had that emotional response, you had a bad thought, you didn't feel good emotionally, physically, you don't feel good. Remember that memory and bring yourself back. You might need to close your eyes, do a little breathing exercise, bring yourself back into that state and allow your brain to chew over that memory in great detail. What time of day was it? Who were you with? Where in the body did you feel that feeling goodness? Get yourself in, because what it does is it actually helps you to increase your state. It raises your energy. And then once you're there, once your energy is a little bit higher and you're a little bit out of the victim mode of thoughts and emotions, you can then make a decision that is coming from a calm, sort of higher perspective place. That's it. I don't want to get into any more tools, otherwise we're going to run out of time.
I know it. I just feel like I could listen to it for so long, and I absolutely love how specific it is that the first 17 seconds really matter, because it makes you think, God, I wake up and I pick up my phone. In about the first 5 seconds. We all do. We have quite a few questions that are coming in, but just before we get to the questions, it would be great if we could go round to all three of you, and if people want to find out more about what you do, if there's one positive thing you think they should do leaving today, if there's Josephine, you were mentioning about your books, can we just go around quickly and let them know, basically let viewers know where they can find out more? So Josephine, did you want to start?
Okay, sure. So just
straight back to you.
josephinemcgrail.com, or add me on Instagram, josephinemcgrail12. So that's the digit 12. That's where you can find out about my book, which is a 30-day course. You can find out about my 30-day morning meditation practice and my 30-day evening meditation practice. And if there's one thing you take away from today, just take away that you always have a choice, and that happiness is a choice. It's a practice. And that's it.
Lovely. Thank you. And Leanne, where can people go if they want to find out more about your work or what you do?
So the best place probably is my website, which is leanneevanswellbeing.com. My Instagram, which is at leanneevanswellbeing. And I have also just written my first book, which is now live on Amazon. So it's a 7-step journey. I have practiced manifestation, and it really is taking on some of the tools I've mentioned today, but really guiding you on that journey of, like I said, going from that limited mindset into the growth mindset, practical little things that you can do, and being guided to kind of take control of your life. So it's called Lifted Spirits, and it is on Amazon. So I'm just kind of sharing this book with everyone at the minute. So if you would like to know more, do connect with me.
Lovely. Thank you. And Sally, so you've spoken a lot about your mental fitness program. Where can people find out more about you and what you do?
So you can find out more about me on my website. So that's sallymay.co.uk. And the two main things I'm doing at the moment is running the mental fitness program. So that's a 6-week program, and I take a maximum of 5 people each time, and because we have a little group call on a Monday or a Tuesday, and it's important that everyone gets a chance to share. So I'll be taking people. Be taking people accept. I will be accepting applicants for that over the next couple of weeks. So if you're interested in that, please do get in touch via my website, and I'll start on the 30th of October so that we can get that done before Christmas. So Christmas can be a triggering time for people, can't it? So imagine doing a 6-week program that gets you all set up for that. It would be amazing. And it would also set you up for setting yourself some goals for the new year as well, if that's your bag. So, and then I'm also doing purpose-led career transition coaching. So what I'll tend to do is do this mental fitness program at the beginning, which really gives you a solid basis. Who am I? And really starting to learn some useful tools. And then the career transition program, to help you into more purpose-led work, really helps you dig down into some more really fun stuff about who you are, and get quite creative about exploring ideas and choosing one and then building a plan.
Lovely. Thank you. So we have roughly 10 minutes left. So I'm just going to go through some of the questions that have come in. Some of them we have touched upon, but it might be one of them that a question that has come in, which Leanne, I wonder whether you might be able to help with your work on workplace wellbeing, is that someone has asked, workplaces can be stressful. Have you ever noticed any creative solutions that companies have provided for their employees' wellbeing? So any strategies that you think work to help alleviate that stress?
Completely. So my workplace wellbeing company kind of started at the beginning of the pandemic, and I've definitely seen like a big transition in terms of what we are offering. We're always looking for creative solutions, and I think companies have acknowledged a deeper need to support people on different levels. doing more inclusive well-being, really thinking about each individual employee, their own experiences, and really catering to people on a deeper level. So we do, for example, inclusion circles for people of colour who work in offices who might have different experiences when certain life events happen. So they've got a safe space. We do LGBT, and we do workshops and supporting people on becoming more aware and being an ally. And we also do art classes, and we do creative solutions where people can just really tap into that creativity. So we're really looking at people as individuals, and our motto for my wellbeing workplace wellbeing company is we want everyone to be able to bring their best selves to work, whatever that looks like. So the solutions that we're coming up with, you know, has to seek to address each of those individuals and their needs. And yeah, we try and always think of creative solutions to help people with that.
Amazing, thank you. And another question we had, which you briefly touched upon, Josephine, but I wonder if maybe we could just circle back to it quickly, is do you think that we will always have negative automatic thoughts? So we were talking about at the beginning about the reason why. Is that always going to be the case? Or when we shift this mindset, could it be that our mindsets, we don't have them?
So I think that everything is a process, right? And so we spend as a species. I like getting really specific. Funnily enough, I work so much with energy, and I always get really scientific. But when we look again at the evolution of us as a species, if this has been the natural trend for a really, really long time, we're talking thousands of years, then of course it's going to take a little bit while, right, for us to get to a point where the first person, sort of speak, that we listen to, you know, is Yoda, or is our good sage, or, you know, whatever else we want to call these minds, you know, these kind of little people that we have within, right? So it will take time. Oh, wow, there's some noise there. Is it possible for us to make it our default mode, i.e. the first one we turn to always look at the opportunity within the situation? I think with time and practice, yes, on an evolutionary scale, it might take a very, very long time. How quickly, you know, how quickly you're going to get there, it all depends on how much practice you put into it. Because again, it's the same thing as going to the gym, right? You want to be able to hold a plank with good posture for like 10 minutes. Guess how much you're going to have to practice? I really believe it's the same thing. You need the discipline to stick with the practices. So i.e. whichever tips you're taking away from today, just make sure that whenever you notice that feeling of feeling down, or the repetitive thoughts that are going into a downward spiral, when these things happen, whenever you notice that and you take a step back, the more you're able to take a step back and go, oh, okay, something is going on. Even just noticing and taking a step back, that's step one. And if you keep doing that like 10 times in a day, or 20 times, or 100 times in a day, you take a step back and you ask yourself, what is this teaching me? How can I best support the journey? If you do that 20 times, 200, 10,000 times a day, then you start to get into a space of empowerment. You get into a space of actually 100% changing your mindset, which is the default right now of what's the risk in this situation to what's the opportunity.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it's a process, isn't it? It's a long process. It's not a quick fix, but it's I think it's encouraging to know that can happen and we can change it. So that's fantastic. I'm just going to see how many more we can get through. Sally, perhaps you could take this question because you gave us an exercise earlier. I wonder if you have any others. So someone has asked, do you have any quick tips on what to do when facing a difficult situation? For example, breathing exercises. Now, the PQ rep reminds me of that. And hopefully the person has seen you give the example of that. But do you have any other quick tips on when someone is in the moment feeling overwhelmed or stressed, any other ways they can sort of break themselves out of it?
Yes, I mean, there's lots of little, you just have to play around with them and find which one works for you. But another one is just try and feel all of your toes, and just be aware of them and start to maybe try and move each toe. And it's distracting you a little bit, and it's it's reducing the activity in that saboteur brain and starting to help you tune in more to the sage region of your brain. So just like focus, oh, right, on all my toes, feel all my toes. Yes, slowing down your breathing. Because quite often people say, oh, just take a deep breath. But actually a deep breath can possibly make you feel more stressed. So it's, can I slow it down? And am I breathing from my diaphragm? And so there's little tips like that.
It all brings you back to the present moment, doesn't it? Like you said.
Exactly.
Yeah, Josephine, did you want
to? Sally, because I think this is so beautiful what you're saying about, just creating some space between your immediate reaction, just creating space, whether that is Leanne's journaling about it, totally unfiltered, what the fuck, blah, 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 whatever, or, oh my God, the grief, the pain, or whether it's getting physical, even just this or the toes, or whether it's the breath and just something with that, Sally. So Sally was saying, make sure you're not just doing this, inhaling a lot. What you actually really need to focus on is the full exhale. It's the letting go. And through that letting go, you're dropping into the body. You're lowering your cortisol level, adrenaline levels, and you're allowing your parasympathetic nervous system to kind of get back into balance a little bit. If that all feels very weird, then at least make sure your breathing is even. So that it means you're inhaling for, let's say, 6, and you exhale for 6, so that it's the even count. That's quite an easy one to remember if you don't. It feels a bit overwhelming with the breathing exercise, but it's a good one.
Making sure we breathe out, we're not just breathing in. That's a good point. There's a question that Leanne, you might be able to answer. Is it because it's something you touched on affirmations? So someone has asked, there is a huge trend on social media for affirmations. Do you believe they're helpful to retrain your brain? And from what you said earlier, this is definitely something that helps you. Did you want to just touch on that again?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's been super helpful. I think that Josephine mentioned that window, and I think if you can, in an effective way, just get that positive, boost of what you need in that time period. For me, just because of the lifestyle I was living in, it was quite busy. It was just incredible just to kind of tune into YouTube at the time I did and just listen to some incredible positive words of affirmation on my morning walk. It just really started me up for the day and really kind of helped me feel good. So for me, it's been so incredible on my journey, and obviously it transitions. It's something I think that is good kind of just starting out, but then you start to kind of maybe naturally start to, when you have that awareness that we talked about and kind of train your brain a bit more, naturally going that way. But I think it is good at that starting point just to have that thing just easily to tap into that is going to try and help you to think more positively first thing in the morning. So
in the first 17 seconds.
In the morning, just to have that boost. Maybe it's uplifting music, maybe it's something else for you. But I think it is just something that is easy and effective that you can just tune in and listen to, or read or have available just to kind of start the day off. Yeah,
definitely. We have one more question. I think we can get through it just before, with a few minutes to go. But Josephine, this is something you might be able to answer. It's on toxic positivity and how to avoid it. You're nodding. I feel like this is a good question for you. The question was, do you believe in toxic positivity and how can you avoid it?
Yeah, so I think it's very much what we talked about from the beginning, where we're creating an awareness and a space for both what we are, labeling as negative emotions, negative thoughts, as well as positive thoughts, positive emotions, understanding that they both exist. And then in a way, they both need to be there, because the point is, when you're having a negative thoughts, it is not only because it is there to keep you safe. I think sometimes it is actually also guiding you. It's kind of saying, this doesn't work for me anymore. It might have worked for you, whether that's a relationship, a work thing, a hobby, a route you take to work, something you eat. The day that you kind of go, ooh, something doesn't feel right. I'm having these thoughts. I don't even want to go over there. Yes, we should challenge it. So we're not just kind of, oh, no, I'm just not going to do it. But quite, there is definitely a place for a negative thought and a negative emotion. And not just to keep us safe, but also to keep us evolving. So creating a space where we're going, we only want positive thoughts at all times. No, I don't think that's good. Absolutely not. Because quite often it is through I love the saying, are you ready? It is often through the most contradictory situations in life that we make our most transformational decisions, right? It is often when you're not feeling good or you are having your negative thoughts and they're repetitive. And through that, if you can take that step back and you can get the support that you need and you can do your journal exercises, myth or fact, or whatever else support that you need, it is through that process that you get clearer about who you want to be, through knowing who you no longer want to be, or who you want to be around, through knowing who you don't no longer want to be around. Do you know what I mean? So there definitely is a time and a place for the negative thoughts as well as the positive. I hope that kind of makes sense. I don't want to talk too much about it. Yeah.
No, it does make sense. I feel like I could talk for this on this topic for ages, but we are out of time. So thank you so much, all three of you, for joining. It's been super helpful. Loads of really great practical tips that I'm sure many people will be taking away, which I know I will be as well. And for everyone else, thank you for watching. If you want to find out more about us, find out more at smileymovement.org. But other than that, thank you very much and have a great day.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.